Hey there, storytellers! Welcome back to my channel and welcome to day 26 of Bookoween. Today's video is going to be marginally on the negative side. I was sitting there thinking that I've shared a lot about what I like in novels, especially because I have a tendency to pick out books that I enjoy, but I haven't really shared the things that cause me to knock points from books, what causes me to give it a lower rating, or, what ruins it entirely for me. So without any further ado, I thought I'd share 5 things that kind of ruin novels for me. First one, the agonizingly slow build. Drawing anything out too long, the first kiss, the big battle, a character finding out information they needed. If you take too long to get there, I'm going to lose interest. I don't care how interesting the story was up until that point. I'm going to start to consider putting the novel down if you take too long to get to the next sort of action point. Now, don't get me wrong. A little slow burn is a good thing, and even though I do get a little bit pushy, I'm ready to barrel through it, I can still appreciate a bit of a slow burn. But if it feels like it's their millionth almost first kiss, then I'm gonna lose it, okay? Do not give me an almost first kiss like 10 different times. I just don't have time for it. And this probably stems from the fact that I like to binge watch shows. I like to get to the emotional payoff moments as quickly as possible, be it happy or sad emotional payoff. I still want it no matter what. So if you take forever to get there, I've lost interest. Number 2, an unenjoyable antagonist. Now I hear you. You're sitting there thinking, they're the antagonist. Of course, they're kind of meant to be unenjoyable. But they're not. I need an antagonist that, even if they're not a good person and I don't like them per se, I love to hate them. Do you know what I mean? I need to be just as invested in my antagonist as I am in my protagonist, but for different reasons. I absolutely need a good antagonist, one that has a solid backstory, who, even though their motivations are still sort of reprehensible and you wouldn't agree with them from a moral standpoint, they make some kind of sense and you can see the logical pathway that got them to where they are based on their backstory. Of course, if it's a tragic backstory, it makes even more sense that they feel like the world is turned against them, so they're turning against the world. But if you have this really fleshed out hero, protagonist, whatever you want to call them, up against this evil antagonist that's basically a 2D caricature of a bad person, and they don't have a lot of depth and nuance, I have no interest in seeing how that plays out. So I need my antagonist to be just as compelling as my protagonist. Number 3, a frustrating lack of communication between characters. I am someone whose degree comes from the School of Communications, hence one could assume that I value clear communication between others. And don't get me wrong, a little miscommunication, a little disconnect in what's going on between the characters builds some tension, especially in a contemporary novel, for example, where you don't have, big bads to be fighting against to cause conflict. You don't necessarily have quite an antagonist. Usually the antagonist in something like a contemporary novel is miscommunication, and that's fine. But if they're like almost willingly not communicating with each other, it frustrates me to no end. I can think of a particular example of this, actually, Where It's On by Rainbow Rowell. Even though I love that novel, I was more than frustrated with the almost willful lack of communication between Simon and Baz. They were both sitting there assuming they know what the other person is thinking, wanting to say things, and neither of them say anything of any value for a long time. They just say things at each other, and it's passive aggressive, and it causes issues that could so easily be solved if they just Say something. That is a story with dual character perspective, both from first person point of view. So you really, really are exposed to this like willful lack of communication. And I think lack of communication between characters is most obvious in something like a contemporary or a first person point of view novel, where you can actively see that the characters are kind of choosing not to communicate because they assume the other person doesn't feel the same way. As I'm over here getting worked up about lack of communication, number 4 is not enough emotion. Regardless of if a story is plot or character driven, I need to be emotionally invested in what is going on. If it doesn't tug on my heartstrings, I'm out. Now, I know most people probably wouldn't admit this, but I want to cringe from secondhand embarrassment. I want to feel the pain of a character's loss as if it is my personal pain. I want to have butterflies in my stomach at the almost first kiss and then the actual first kiss. I need to feel it. Even if it's more plot driven than character driven, there are ways that you can really convey what the characters are feeling in an intense way. And the more intensely I react to the emotions within a book, the better it's gonna do. But if there isn't enough, I don't know how to keep reading. I'm already not a plot-driven story lover. I prefer character-driven because they tend to be more emotional. But if it's plot-driven and they don't make enough effort to really hone in on the characters' emotions to what is occurring within the plot, I just can't. And number 5, drawing a series out or creating a series at all. That's a little controversial, I know, but hear me out. There are some stories that I adore. And of course, like every reader out there, when I adore a story, I want more of it. I do. But I think there's something to be said about leaving the reader wanting more. If you try too hard to keep delivering on that feeling, sooner or later you're going to peter out and your audience is going to lose interest at some point. It happens to TV shows all the time. They go on way too long and a lot of people lose interest in what initially drew them to the story to begin with. In a sense, you basically have to quit while you're ahead. And for me, I'd rather have a standalone book that leaves me wanting more of the characters than getting too many books where I'm sick of the characters and I'm not rooting for them anymore or not as strongly. Now, personally, I think 3 is a great number. A trilogy's fine. You kind of get a little new story with each one that wraps up the overall story pretty well, and you can kind of leave it. Duologies are even better. It's kind of just like, here's one half, here's the second half of a very, very long movie. But anything starting to span, 6+ books, it's gonna kill me. I don't have the attention span for that. No matter how good the story is, I'm losing interest rapidly, especially because many characters seem to repeat the same issues they had in earlier novels and had gotten over. So the fact that they almost don't seem to learn from their past drives me insane. Well, there you have it. I admitted to some controversial opinions on what ruins a novel for me, or not all of them. I'm sure other people also get annoyed by these things, but the not wanting a series one was probably one of the most controversial ones on there. And what can I say? I love pining, so if I have to pine for more of a book and never get it, I'm almost more satisfied than if I get it. It's a weird little me quirk. I don't know what to say about it other than it is what it is. But if you enjoyed this video, let me know by leaving a like down below. I mean, what about you guys? What ruins a novel for you? Is it any of what I shared? Do you agree or do you disagree? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you want to keep up with me and all of my bookish adventures, you can go ahead and click the subscribe button. And of course, I highly recommend that you ring the little bell so that you don't miss a beat. It will notify you every time I post a new video, which for the rest of the month is going to be every single day. So I'll see you guys tomorrow with a new one. Bye!